And to complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. The Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, reports high voter turnout despite delays and serious tensions in the first day of the plebiscite for the Bangsamoro Organic Law. During the referendum in Cotabato City, tensions flared in a polling center after residents chased two alleged flying voters. A voter also complained against a plebiscite committee member for allegedly replacing her no vote with yes. Before the start of the voting, BOL advocates and oppositors also briefly clashed due to alleged vote buying.
It's people who call them flying voters. Yes. We don't know for sure yet if they are flying voters. From all of the reports I've heard, it was basically people saying, we don't know these people, therefore they are flying voters, and then they gang up on them.
On the eve of the poll, blasts also rocked Cotabato City after a hand grenade detonated near the house of a judge. Despite this, authorities reported that the overall conduct of the plebiscite was orderly. The first plebiscite was held in 7 major areas in Mindanao, namely Maguindanao, Sulu, Lanao del Sur, Tawi-Tawi, Basilan, and in the cities of Isabela and Cotabato City. A second voting is scheduled on February 6 in Lanao del Norte, North Cotabato, and other areas seeking to be included in the new Bangsamoro entity.
So far naman, okay naman yung turnout natin sa mga areas covered by the plebiscite. We hope we could reach yung at least man lang majority, no, ng turnout so that we could get some sentiments of our people whether they agree to be included or sa pag-adapt ng batas sa BOL.
Meanwhile, the Commission on Elections vows to address the areas that need improvements in the overall system of automated elections, especially the transmission of results ahead of the actual polls in May. This is after encountering signal problems in the transmission of results in Cebu and Zamboanga during mock elections last Saturday. COMELEC says network signals were jammed in Cebu after the mock polls coincided with the conduct of Sinulog Festival. As an alternative, the poll body used another technology so as not to hamper the transmission of results from participating precincts. COMELEC also reported that the actual process of voting up to the transmission of results was completed on time in 3 major areas in Metro Manila, wherein the actual number of voters joined the mock polls.
Okay naman yung mock elections natin, nakaboto naman yung mga tao. Nakita natin lahat ng gusto nating makita, particular doon sa mga proseso natin, no? Ang purpose o ang dahilan kung bakit tayo nag-mock elections ay para malaman natin kung paano nagpe-perform yung sistema, kung ano nangyayari doon sa mga prosesong nakapalibot doon sa ating automated system.
In other news, the Filipino multiple world champion Manny Pacquiao is up for a rematch with Floyd Mayweather Jr. after his impressive and dominant victory over American challenger Adrian Broner in Las Vegas. Pacquiao said his latest victory only proves that his boxing career still continues and that he is willing to face Mayweather again if the latter is up to it. Mayweather attended the fight but refused to answer speculations of a rematch. Pacquiao wowed the crowd at the Las Vegas MGM Arena with his form and accuracy when he controlled each round. ANC cruised into a comfortable win. The bout against 29-year-old Broner was Pacquiao's 70th professional fight and his first as a 40-year-old.
Right now, I'm still okay. I mean, I can still fight. You see my performance, I can be still an aggressive fighter, and I can give my best at the age of 40.
Some groups advocating for the rights of children condemn the decision of the House Committee of Justice to approve a measure lowering the age of criminal liability to 9 years old from the previous 15. Under the bill, children ages 9 to 17 years old who will commit petty crimes will not be detained in a regular jail, but in youth care facilities or in Bahay Pag-asa for rehabilitation. However, they will be brought to agricultural camps once they commit serious crimes like murder, carnapping, and drug-related violations and are ruled guilty. Once they reach the age of 25, they will be released regardless if they completed their jail term or not. Their identity will also remain classified. But human rights groups say minors shouldn't be held liable for the menace that corrupts the society.
Mga sindikato bababa lang, pupunta sila sa 8, 7, 6 years old. At ang susunod na hakbang ba ng Kongreso ay habulin din yung 6, 7 years, 8 years old? Ang habulin nyo po ay mga sindikato, hindi po ang mga bata.
The Commission on Human Rights, or CHR, meanwhile insisted that the Philippines has an existing commitment with the United Nations, emphasizing its obligation to protect the welfare of children. Meanwhile, the Senate Committee on Justice is set to hear the bill seeking to lower the age of criminal liability on Tuesday. Malacanang assures that President Rodrigo Duterte is not abandoning his proposal to shift the country's form of government to federalism. This is after President Rodrigo Duterte hinted at limiting the changes in the 1987 Philippine Constitution to economic provisions, which he led the peace rally for the BANGSAMORO Organic Laws ratification in Cotabato City last week. According to presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo, the president still wants federalism to be implemented within his term and that his latest statement was only due to his frustration over Congress's inaction towards the proposal.
Perhaps what he is saying is that it takes too long for Congress to act on it. You must remember that he has been advocating for a revision of the Constitution at the inception of his presidency. And Congress knew that.
Tropical depression Amang is expected to weaken into low-pressure area within 12 hours after making a landfall over Siargao Island in Surigao del Norte on Sunday night. Based on the latest report from State Weather Bureau Pag-asa, Amang slightly slowed down as it heads over the eastern seaboard of eastern Samar. Amang is packing maximum sustained winds of 45 kilometers per hour with gustiness of up to 60 kilometers per hour as it moves north at the speed of 10 kilometers per hour. Pag-asa also reports that Amang is expected to bring light to heavy rains over Catanduanes, Camarines Sur, Albay, Sorsogon, and northern Samar tonight. The tropical cyclone warning signal number 1 is still up in Sorsogon and Masbate, including Ticao Island, Samar, Biliran, and Leyte. Residents of these areas, especially those living in flood and landslide-prone areas, are advised to take appropriate actions, while small sea crafts are advised not to venture out due to high waves and surge of northeast monsoon. Malacanang also calls on the public to stay vigilant and heed advisories regarding the storm. And for the news abroad, here's Pauline Umpico live from Tokyo, Japan. Pauline, good evening.
Good evening, William. U.S. President Donald Trump offered to extend support for legislation to protect young undocumented immigrants amid a month-long impasse over his proposal to build a U.S.-Mexico wall. However, Democrat House Speaker Nancy Pelosi rejected the offer, calling it unacceptable. James Bontuyan will tell us why.
U.S. President Donald Trump proposed an immigration deal on Saturday in a bid to end a 29-day partial government shutdown, after House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi and other leading Democrats had already said they rejected the plan. Trump stuck to his demand that $5.7 billion for this year to fund the U.S.-Mexico border wall be part of any bill to fully reopen the government, an ultimatum Democrats opposed. But the president had hoped that offering new protections for some undocumented immigrants could end a month-long impasse with Congress. In a speech from the White House, Trump offered to extend support for legislation to protect young undocumented immigrants known as Dreamers, as well as holders of Temporary Protected Status, or TPS. He said Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell would seek quick passage of his proposal.
There are two more elements to my plan. Number one is 3 years of legislative relief for 700,000 DACA recipients brought here unlawfully by their parents at a young age many years ago. This extension will give them access to work permits, Social Security numbers, and protection from deportation, most important. Secondly, our proposal provides a 3-year extension of Temporary Protected Status, or TPS. This means that 300,000 immigrants whose protected status is facing expiration will now have 3 more years of certainty so that Congress can work on a larger immigration deal, which everybody wants, Republicans and Democrats.
Shortly before he spoke, Pelosi, the top U.S. Democrat, in a statement said the offer was unacceptable and did not represent a good faith effort to restore certainty to people's lives. She said the president's offer was unlikely to gain the votes needed to pass the House or Senate. That partial shutdown has meant that 800,000 federal workers were either furloughed or working without pay since December 22. Prior to his statement, Trump joined Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security Christian Nielsen and Vice President Mike Pence in the Oval Office to oversee the swearing-in of several immigrants becoming American citizens. James Bontulian, UNTV News and Rescue, USA.
Families of victims of a deadly pipeline blast in Mexico held a steady stream of funerals over the weekend, while others continued searching for their loved ones who went missing after a powerful explosion during a fuel theft. Beverly Sison tells us why.
Friends and families began saying their final farewells on Sunday to victims of a gasoline pipeline blast that has killed at least 79 people. Fuel thieves punctured the Tula-Tuxpan pipeline a few miles from one of Mexico's main refineries on Friday. Up to 800 people flocked to fill plastic containers from the 23-feet gasoline geyser that ensued, officials say. A couple of hours later, it erupted in flames in a powerful explosion. Half a dozen people said their relatives went to the leaking duct in Tlahuelilpan district in Hidalgo state because they struggled to find fuel elsewhere and they were desperate to fill up cars to get to work or run their farms.
It's disheartening not knowing anything about your relative and having no news about him. We've looked in hospitals by name, but nothing.
I want to have him with me, hopefully alive. I don't know what could happen, but I would like to have him now.
Late last month, President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador launched a program to shut down an illegal fuel distribution network that siphons off about $3 billion worth of fuel annually from state-owned firm Pemex. The plan, which called for shutting pipelines targeted by thieves, led to widespread gasoline shortages in central Mexico this month, including in Hidalgo, north of Mexico City. Lopez Obrador said on Sunday that the disaster had not weakened his resolve to fight fuel theft. Beverly Sison, UNTV News and Rescue.
Heavy clashes ensue as Greeks protest the Macedonian name deal. Meanwhile, rescue efforts in Spain to reach a 2-year-old boy trapped in a deep well enters a second week. Kath Dumaraos tells us why.
In Greece, thousands rallied in Athens on Sunday to protest ahead of next week's parliamentary vote to ratify a name deal with Macedonia. Central Athens turned into a sea of people holding blue and white Greek flags as thousands came from all over the country to rally against the accord to name the ex-Yugoslav state North Macedonia. Clashes erupted as mass protesters hurled petrol bombs at police, who fired tear gas and took into custody at least one protester outside the parliament. The issue evoked strong emotions among Greeks who consider Macedonia, the ancient kingdom ruled by Alexander the Great, to be an integral part of their homeland and heritage. In Israel, the Israel Defense Forces launched an operation against the Quds Force elite units of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards in Syria. It provided no details, but there are reports of strikes around the Syrian capital Damascus early on Monday. Syrian media say air defenses have repelled an Israeli aerial attack. On Sunday, the IDF said it had intercepted a rocket over the Golan Heights. And in Spain, Rescue efforts to reach a 2-year-old boy trapped in a deep well entered a second week on Sunday as the drilling operation continued. The boy, Hulen, fell into the borehole, which is just 25 centimeters wide and 328 feet deep, as his family walked through a private estate in Totalan, Malaga. On Sunday morning, rescuers had only completed 33 meters of the tunnel. Once the first tunnel is completed, rescuers will attempt to construct a second shorter tunnel by hand to reach the area where the boy is trapped. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the news from the other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you very much, Pauline Umpico, live from Tokyo, Japan. Hundreds of moon gazers in Los Angeles, California were treated to a full cosmic show during a total lunar eclipse that gave rise to the super blood moon description. Eileen Cerudo tells us why.
Skywatchers howled at the moon at the Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles when the full lunar eclipse appeared shortly after 9 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday, and our celestial neighbor was bathed reddish-orange during a super blood wolf moon.
Amazing. It's, as you can see, it's a party atmosphere, but everybody is just enjoying the spectacle.
More than 1,500 people gathered at the observatory near the city's famous Hollywood sign to watch the eclipse. However, not everyone got to watch the cosmic show, with lunar eclipse parties cancelled elsewhere due to a flash freeze across the central and northeastern United States. Icy roadways rather than cloudy skies were blamed by astronomers for spoiling the festivities. In Los Angeles, where the weather was markedly warmer and skies cleared just in time, skywatchers were treated to a full spectacle of the Earth casting a shadow over the moon's face.
Oh, it was fantastic. It was great. This is a great location, and the observatory is always fun to come visit. And so tonight, when we heard about this, we decided we'd come up.
The moon did not vanish entirely during the total eclipse, but at its height, the entire lunar surface was bathed in a reddish-orange glow that gives rise to the blood moon description. The reddish color is due to rays of sunlight passing through the Earth's dusty, polluted atmosphere as the moon falls into our planet's shadow. The shorter, more pliable blue wavelengths of light are scattered outside the Earth's shadow, and the longer, less bendable red wavelengths are refracted toward the moon. Adding to the visual effect is the fact that the eclipse occurred at a time when the moon reached a point in its orbit, putting it close to Earth, an alignment called a supermoon. It has also earned the name Wolf Moon because it appears in January when wolves would howl in hunger outside villages early in U.S. history, according to the Farmer's Almanac. Unlike a solar eclipse, which requires eye protection to enjoy the view safely, no extra measures need to be taken for hazard-free lunar eclipse watching. The next chance for Americans to see a total lunar eclipse is 2022. The best viewing of the 1-hour total eclipse was from North and South America, with as many as 2.8 billion people able to see it from the Western Hemisphere, Europe, West Africa, and northernmost Russia. Eileen Cerudo, UNTV, News and Rescue.
And those are the reasons behind the news, January 21, 2019. On behalf of Rheena, Villamor-Camara, and Angelo, Castro III, I am William Thio, because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.